It's the Daily Drama Podcast with Stephen Bradford, presented by dailydrama.com. We have a wonderful guest today, a new face to the General Hospital landscape. She plays Emma. It's Braedyn Bruner. Hi, Braedyn.
Hey,
Thanks so much for being with us today.
thank you so much for having me.
I gotta say, I love your resting smile face. That feels like that feels like that's on your face a lot of the time. That's wonderful.
Thank you. It's funny because it's not on Emma's face a lot these days.
That's true. That is true. That's true.
Steve, do you and Braedyn have scenes together?
Well, so Braedyn, was the first day? When was your first day? Was it in Anna's house?
That was, I think I want to say that was my second or my third day. My very first day was when I walk through the door and I say Merry Christmas, everyone.
I was there.
Yeah, you were there.
There you go. There you go.
And it was funny because it was like your whole family meeting you for the first time, but welcoming you back as if we've known you for years, which was it's a fun experience. Like our world is so unusual. We do such weird stuff. Yeah. But one of the reasons why we wanted to have you here is because like we want our audience to get to know you, but we want to get to know you as well. So it sounds so like basic, but where are you from?
Yeah. I'm originally from a small town in Texas called Lucas, Texas. It's like 40 minutes north of Dallas. But a lot more like farmland. I think when I originally moved there, it was around population 3,000. I think we're close to triple that now. But
wow.
Yeah, so we got like one bait and feed store. We've got like 2 stoplights, 1 high school. So pretty small town.
That's exactly. My town was about that size too. So you know everybody for better or for worse, right?
This is true. That is true.
So did you still feel so isolated even though you were close to Dallas, or did you guys ever go into the city or what?
Yeah, so I started acting at a pretty young age. I started when I was about 5, and so along with that, all auditions were in person back in the day. And so when we were
back about 4 years ago. Thanks so much.
How did your parents get you involved? Were you just a smiley kid and they're like, let's put this kid in pictures?
So I always loved watching movies. Like that kind of, I think, originated with my grandparents. When my mom and dad would go out of town or date nights and stuff, they would drop us off with the grandparents, and my grandfather was always watching like old westerns. And
oh, cool.
I grew up on like The Wizard of Oz, and like there's not a time where I don't remember watching movies. That being said, I was an extremely shy child, and my sister was quite the polar opposite of me. She was very involved in sports and theater, and I grew up going to all of her events. And my mom was like, Braedyn, why don't you just like try an acting class? Like let's just see like if you like it. And I got addicted.
Wow, that's amazing.
I kind of fell in love with it. And it was kind of that one place where I didn't have to be shy anymore. And I got to put on these different faces and kind of just be someone that I wasn't for the day. And I think, yeah, I fell in love with it.
Did you have to go to Dallas to do that? Or were there some opportunities in your town?
So most like auditions were in Austin. So those were like a 4-hour drive from where I lived.
Oh, interesting. So even as a 5-year-old, you're like, I'm going to acting classes, and immediately they're like, well, let's get you working. Like how did it go from like, hey, on Tuesdays and Thursdays we go to dance or theater class to let's drive 4 hours for an audition?
Yeah, so I guess I kind of skipped a part. My sister, when she did theater, she got recognized by a casting director out of Dallas, who then recommended her to an agency out of Dallas. And I was kind of at that age where they're like, oh, she's cute. Like, let's sign her for commercials and things like that. And so that's kind of how I got the agency.
Ah, okay.
And then, and then I started taking classes. There's one studio that I feel like anyone from Dallas has, and their mom has probably been through that studio. But it was in Louisville, Texas, which is about like 30 minutes, like Dallas as well. But yeah, kind of everyone went there.
So as long as you can remember, you've been going to auditions and having the peaks and valleys of what that's like.
Oh yeah, we know rejection well.
Yeah.
Isn't that a great life lesson though?
Yeah.
It really is. Like, because how I started was my dad was just like, hey, why don't you try it?
Yeah.
Because I was very shy, avoided theater class, hated getting up in front of people. And then you get, you get an agent, a commercial agent. And then you're rejected 70 times.
Absolutely.
Well, especially with commercials, right? Like,
I mean, dude, it was like I literally went on 60 or 70 commercial auditions before I got my first one. So
Yeah.
it was just like, okay, cool. It's a little easier to be rejected for commercials.
Yeah.
It's a little more difficult when you start,
is it though? Like when you're a kid,
well, I mean,
when
dude,
you're a kid,
guest
they're like,
star-
oh, they hired the cuter kid. You're like, I'm not cute enough. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's so commercials. It's so basic, and it can be about the color of your hair. It can be how tall you are.
It was total. Yeah.
So,
totally.
but unless you're, it takes a little bit to be like, oh, well, then it's not about me. But
that's a little easier. But when you're investing in a guest spot or you're testing for a network and you're working on the scene for, 3-4 days and investing and you think you have a chance and then you don't get it, that's a little more disappointing than going, hey, we want the guy with dark hair.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's just, but rejection, what a life lesson, right?
Absolutely.
Because at some point you get to the point where you're not, okay, this is just what it is. And I don't put so much power into what someone else thinks, and that's a good lesson. So
what was your childhood like? What was being a kid like for you, trying to juggle driving to Austin for auditions? What, like, was it could you truly invest in your high school experience? Could you truly invest in your, like, what was it like?
That's a great question. I think when I was younger, as much as I loved acting and I loved taking classes, I was still involved in sports, and I went to public school. A lot of the people in my family are public educators, and so I've always been big on like academia, and I was a huge reader growing up, still am. But yeah, going to auditions was kind of just like this thing that I felt like I did on the side for a while until I was about 16 or 17. I kind of had a moment where, the college counselors start coming to your room and you start like thinking bigger picture and down the line. And I was like, there's genuinely just nothing else in my life that I want to do. Like, this is what I want to commit to full time. And so what does that look like for me outside of school? But no, I definitely think that I got a completely normal childhood experience. It's just like this thing. Oh, Braedyn is an actor. She also is like missing soccer practice today because she's going to an audition. But like,
sure,
my friends were cool about it, and yeah.
So nothing in that early stage took you away from that experience. Like, if you booked something, it was local pretty much, and
yeah, just commercials. And then when I was about 16, I got involved in modeling side of things. I was doing a showcase at my acting studio, and one of my teachers recognized that I was like taller, and she was like, do you want to do like some modeling? And I was like, yeah, I mean, sounds fun to me. And so I kind of just, modeling is different than acting in the sense of you still kind of feel like you're playing a character sometimes, but you're not necessarily like being vocal.
Sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. So,
yeah.
No,
Braedyn, you can just talk to me about that one. We can just mute Bradford for a minute. It's fine.
I gotta tell you, this is kind of been a recurring thing. That's why I joke about it, because I was telling you before we started recording that we've done about almost 400 of these, and modeling comes up on over time on a regular basis with actors and people, like, so it's just part of a lot of people's journey, and so it's hard for me not to throw in my lack of experience in that arena.
Amazing.
But what now did that open doors for you? How did that steer your journey?
Made some money.
Yeah, I did make a little bit of money. I started paying taxes at an early age.
There you go. Yeah.
But in Texas, not federal taxes. I'm not state taxes, just federal. There you go.
That's correct.
That's true.
I liked modeling for the part that it started getting me out of school more, and like I got to do this thing that I liked creatively speaking, but it was not my passion by any means. Like, I think in opening doors, I think it helped me with my confidence. Like, I feel like you're still being on a set and you're getting to be around people in a creative space, and so I think that just helped me communicate better, if anything else. And
well, I mean, does it? I don't know if I've ever asked this, but obviously in modeling you have to be in your body, you have to be right? Like it can't be just a head up thing, right? So, and you have to tell a story a bit with your body too. And so like that, because I feel like a lot of actors don't think of their body as part of their instrument, especially film and TV actors. So like, that's really interesting to me. Like, does modeling, unless it makes you feel rigid and like super like aware of your body in a weird way, but like I wonder if it just starts, you know, you think of your body as a tool more than other actors coming up maybe do. I don't know, just a question.
Yeah. No, I definitely think it gets you out of your head and into your body. I mean, like half the time they're like, jump around, turn around, do a spin. Like, because I did more commercial and like print things than I did. I did some fashion, but again, that was not the end goal. That's like a whole nother ballpark. But yeah, in the commercial space for sure, it's more like you're kind of playing a character and you're having fun and you just move around, jump, like they're blowing like a fan at your face and like
Sure.
whole, whole thing. So yeah, definitely.
So what, how did, when did you leave Texas, or like, is that the next step in the journey, leaving Texas?
Sure, yeah. So I moved out of my parents' house when I was 20, got an apartment in Dallas.
Okay.
Then when I was literally worst timing, to be honest, during strike, I moved out here in September, Labor Day weekend. Right period. But it was just a decision on my behalf of, okay, again, I'm committing myself to this thing. A lot of my friends are already out here. I've been flying back and forth for the past 4 years. Like every time there was some sort of chemistry read or callback, like.
Oh, so you were just sending tapes from Texas, but had reps out here already.
Yeah, I signed the manager in 2020 out here, and then I signed with my agents. Goodness, I want to say end of 2022.
Okay.
Yeah. So then I was like, yeah, I've always loved it here too. I think the end goal is always to be.
Yeah, I understand not moving out here in 2020. That seemed probably silly. Yeah.
So how did GH come about?
Yeah, GH. You know what? I originally auditioned for a role for General Hospital in, I want to say 2021, like right after the pandemic happened. And I've guessed that it was actually for the role of Esme. Now that I'm like looking back on it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like reading the breakdown on like this, and then seeing that character on TV, I was like, okay, I think this was that character. But again, you never know. They give you fake sides and fake that whole thing.
They're so shifty these days. They weren't always in the were they Steve? Were they always this like?
They did. You know, if it was a main character, they would try to hide it a little bit. You know. Yeah. Just because there was always a rat in the building.
There still is, man. There's a rat.
Still rats everywhere.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
But
so
it's
that
funny
was
because Braedyn, it's interesting because I auditioned for a different character first, and then Mark brought me back. It happens a lot. Like he is I think, you know, I don't know. I can't say he's the king of it, but he definitely remembers people and brings them back. But like he's so organized, and I know he'll put you on a list. He'll be like, oh, if this comes up here, Braedyn's coming in. So did you have to audition for this part?
Oh yeah. So I started the audition process in September of last year. Sent in I had just gone home to visit my family in Texas. Like I hadn't seen them in a while. I went home, got the self-tape for General Hospital, put myself on tape as you do, not expecting to hear anything. And then I think it was a week later, I flew back for producer session, and I also chemistry read. And then I flew back, which was a mistake.
Oh gosh, right.
And then they called me back in for a second producer session.
Oh boy.
And I stayed because I used my brain. And then
it only took 4 years. You're ahead of the game.
Yeah,
it's okay.
And then I screen tested a couple of days after that with Gio and Finola.
Oh wow.
Oh,
okay.
Nice.
So quite the process. Okay, so they're taking
they really went on this one, huh?
They're taking your character pretty serious.
They did.
I would say so. I would say so.
Yeah, you can
awesome.
You can tell. Like I was supposed to die within a month, so I had my pre-screen with Mark, and then I had a producer's read, and then that was it.
Yeah, they were like, give us a goofy guy who's not a model.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
come over here. Okay, you're in.
Don't worry, you're going to be dead in a month. This is a low. These are low stakes. Lo and behold, 18 years later, here we are. But,
I know, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But how was that process for you, screen
Yeah.
testing? Because sometimes that can be a little nerve-wracking compared to, being in the producer. Look,
Sure.
when you've read, you self-tape, you met Mark, you're in the producers, you kind of get used to that. And then all of a sudden you have to go on to now you're in the jungle down there.
Yeah.
In the hallways,
Yeah.
seeing the other actors getting ready to go up on stage. Mark comes down, gives you the pep talk, right?
Exactly what happened.
Yeah, gives you the pep talk. Then you're like, all right, come on, let's go upstairs. And then you do it. And how did that feel for you? Like to be on the set and to be like, wow, I'm doing it. Like, what were your thoughts? Like, I'm doing a real scene here, or like what?
Yeah. Okay. I think my thoughts of the day it was Halloween was the day of our screen test. So it was like my favorite day of the year. So I kind of went in with that positivity.
Nice.
Okay.
And I was like, every time I'd come in for both producer sessions prior, it was completely new girls every time. And like none of us were like similar, or I didn't think any of us were very similar in terms of like physically speaking.
Sure.
And day of screen test, I was like, there's still 10 girls left at this point. So I was like, all right, odds are not in our favor.
Even at the screen test, there was 10?
10. Yeah, I was like 1 of 10.
Okay, so this is where it's weird. This is where it's changed, Bradford.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, because I've obviously been doing this a long time, and I've screen tested for a lot of daytime roles too. 10 people. Like, I'm just wondering I like to talk to Frank about this, or Mark, and I will because of you, Braedyn.
Oh no.
No, because 10. Like, don't we go through the process to whittle down to our favorite 5,
3, 4,
3, 4, 10? 10.
Wow.
Line them up.
It helped me though. I think mentally that actually helped me because I remember getting there and I was like, okay, there's like a lot of people still left. And I was like, you know what? This is how we're going to treat it. We're going to treat this like it's an acting exercise. And we're going to go.
Great. Yeah, that's true.
And
That's true.
But at least we swung.
No, you're right.
Hey, you know what? Maybe that's Mark's perspective. Like, hey, we're gonna take the pressure off, because if there were 2 people, you'd be like, oh no, it's just between me. I have a 50% chance of getting this.
Sure.
Right.
Like, that's a little more nerve-wracking, quite honestly.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I've done chemistry reads where I think the max I've ever done at a chem reader screen test was 4. I want to say. So yeah, that was a new experience for me too, but I think it did help me in a weird way.
Yeah. So you had one scene, and it was with Gio and Finola.
Yeah, so they took the original audition scene from the producer sessions that were originally just with Gio, and then for the screen test, they added another, I think it was half a page with Finola. They sent it, I think, the day before or 2 days before. And that's when, in my mind, I was like, okay, now I got to start doing some more research here. Because
who's this character?
I think I'm related in some way. And then...
Well, did you call her like grandma or something?
No, not in this.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
Because there's been no times where, like, as soon as you were on set, everyone knew who you were. So it's not like Finola. Okay. All right. So yeah. Right. So
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you didn't there was nothing in the sides that gave away that she was your grandmother.
No, because no.
Yeah.
It was like an argument with Gio type situation, and then the last bit was she comforts me.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so there was definitely like some familiar relation there.
Sure.
But I wasn't sure at this point. I was only guessing in my mind.
Right. Did you have any familiarity with General Hospital or soaps for that matter?
Yeah, I mean, both of my parents were huge General Hospital fans.
Oh, really?
My grandmother was as well. Particularly, I mean, during like you have the Luke and Laura stories.
Sure.
They've definitely educated
me. Yeah,
we're
a big deal in Texas.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, especially Dallas.
Yeah.
So you did your screen test, and then what? When did you find out that you actually got the role?
That was on a Thursday, I want to say, and then that weekend, and then I learned that Monday I got the phone call.
Monday.
Yeah.
Wow.
quick.
Yeah.
So who called you? Your manager, your agent?
My agent called me and she was so sneaky about it too. She was like, "Hi, Braedyn." And I was like, "Oh no, you don't sound very excited.
Oh.
I just wanted to let you know you booked it." And I was like, "Guys,
Oh.
yeah."
That's amazing.
I was like,
That's
"That's so
amazing.
exciting."
That's great. Was
That's
your
so
family
cool.
excited for you?
Oh yeah, they
Oh,
were.
I'm
My
sure.
mom cried. My dad
Oh.
cried, not in front of me, but he cried. They all cried.
It is
That's
like in
amazing.
terms of other things that you've booked, how does this rank in terms of, I don't know, or how your family would see it or how you see it, I guess.
I mean, it's such a different beast, soaps are. Like
Sure.
it's not like anything
Have
I've
you been a
ever.
series regular on a show or anything before?
No, I've been more in films. Like
Yeah.
I led a film that released last year with Jeff Kober, funny enough.
Oh, fun.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it was an independent coming of age drama. And then after that I did completely on the opposite end of that. I did a body horror film with like prosthetics and like the whole yards. I did that with Justin Long, the
Oh,
comedian.
cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like
Yeah.
really different polarizing things.
That's fun.
But I no, I'd never done anything in the soap world. I haven't really done television. My first job as a kid was a guest spot on Barney and Friends. Um,
That's amazing.
And you still haven't recovered from that, huh?
oh
Yeah.
no, I fangirled that day. Oh my
Oh
goodness.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
So how has the process been for you? Like, how's your memorization coming along? How's the
oh yeah.
yeah,
Honestly, memorizing for me, I think is like the step one. Like that's my like foundation. I think like I've always retained information really well, but I think the pacing has been the biggest thing. I mean, just how fast we move. And I mean, they're building out a story for Emma right now. And the material that I'm getting now is like, okay, it's getting heftier. And
sure.
Sure.
so I think that it's been challenging, but I really like the challenge. And I feel like I'm also, as I'm going along, I'm getting to know this version of her better and better. Like every time they send me something, I'm like, we're getting to peel back
Mm-hmm.
more of who she is, which is really exciting and also different because in other projects, you're like handed the script or like you've got the job. Here's the whole 120 pages or whatever it is, but we get them like
Right.
that week before.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
so good.
there's like the script analysis part of this is
Yeah.
different. You're trying to really kind of just isolate the moment as is without the you don't get the information. You can't mine the script for information.
No.
So
And it's a blessing in the sense that you've been, yeah, I don't want to say it's been easy, your material, but it hasn't been so much where you're just completely overwhelmed and like, how am I ever going to do this? Because sometimes that happens to people who come in and they go, hey, you're doing 6 shows tomorrow, I'm sorry. And you're like, there's no freaking way, right? And you have to live by it or die by it.
yeah.
So it's cool that you're able to do this because you seem like, that you you seem like you have everything going for you. You have everything together. You're very professional. I see how you work on set. I see how you treat people. You're awesome. Your energy's always good. You come up prepared all the time. So it's cool it's going to be cool for us and I think the fans to be able to see where you take this because you seem like you have a hold on it, but like you just said, more things are going to be revealed, which we can take it deeper, as opposed, like I said, getting thrown into the fire and trying to figure it out for the next 2 or 3 months,
Yeah.
because sometimes that happens, and it's tough.
Yeah. I think that
So
whole month and a half too, I think I was just like even learning like when they call an item, like what does that mean? Like it
Yeah,
was like
right. The terminology is different
I
than
mean, yeah, people don't really understand, like, first of all, how hard it is to get the job.
yeah.
That's number one. And then the material that you get, number two, is having to, even if you have 15 pages, right? You got to memorize 15 pages backward and forward to be able to start your process. And then getting to work, going up, learning the process of how things work, and doing this without getting anxiety or putting pressure on yourself to perform. Then you got to go up on stage with other professional actors who've been there a long time, and I'm not saying you're not, but there's this pressure that could be put on you, and obviously people there want to make you comfortable, and everybody, we want everybody to succeed, but there's a lot of pressure of learning the process, and the memorization alone can deter somebody from wanting to do a soap opera.
Yeah.
And then having to get one take and then go fast, or have an emotional scene and, oh, we're just going to pick up because they do this. Oh, we're just going to pick up here. And you're like, no, give me another shot. We can't, we got to go. We're going to pick up on this line. So it's really interesting. And I think it's great for you in the sense that this is the best boot camp there ever will be for anything you ever do again, which you will. Like, this is an amazing school to be in right now for you, because you're so young and you have such a great future ahead of you, that this is only going to help. Like, anytime you walk on a set now, you're going to go like this. What are you guys doing? Why are you taking so long? Why am I in my dressing room for 10 hours? What's happening here? Why does that guy know his lines? This is what happens when you go somewhere else. You're like, wait, what? This is how you guys do stuff?
And then you'll be like, oh, craft services. I missed that.
Yeah. We don't have that at GH. Where's that? Give me those peanut M&Ms.
We have a coffee bar, and that for something.
Yeah, we do have coffee. That's for sure. That's for sure.
We do.
Yeah.
Where did you any information that you did get about Emma? Because I remember, Emma's been on the canvas for a long time, but they didn't tell a whole lot of story about her in the last 3 to 5 years, I don't believe. Like, they would kind of sprinkle her in. So where are you, is all the information just kind of coming to you via script? Are people like kind of giving you information that you might need, from whether it's the producers or the writers telling you little tidbits here and there?
Yeah, I think when I started, like, when I knew I was reading with Finola for the screen test, that's when I started assuming it was for an Emma recast. And so I started going back and watching old YouTube videos. I mean, I've watched the HIV story with Robin. I watched Stone's story. I watched Finola as far back as I could find her. I watched, yeah. I watched Emma when she was born. I watched Emma anything that was on YouTube that I could get my hands on, I watched. That being said, the way that my character is being written as she's returned this time around is so very different.
Right.
And so I'm just trying to find pockets here and there in my scenes where I never want to copy another actor's version of something that they've already done, because in the end, like, I'm Braedyn, and so I have to find my way to like create this version of her. But I still want to humanize her, and I still want to keep those core qualities. And that's a thing that I think is, again, we're going to peel back those layers more and more as we're getting to learn her story since she's been at Berkeley, and like what happened while she was at Berkeley, because we've only really briefly touched on that.
Sure.
We kind of came in guns a-blazing with everyone. And I think certain people are going to be like that voice of reason for her. And I think we're going to see more and more of what her motivations are, like what makes her tick, why is she so hyper focused on this animal cruelty thing. That's kind of the storyline right now. She's a lot, but I want people to know that she has a really good heart, and she's incredibly loyal to those that she loves and to her friends and her family. And she sometimes maybe misses social cues, I think, or maybe like comes in really passionate before thinking. And I think this is her journey of self-actualization.
Well, that's awesome. Well, yeah. As you're new to the genre, and as you're received by the audience, and as you're trying to navigate what kind of character you are, I think the one piece of advice that I know I would have for you, and I think Steve would echo this, is, and it sounds like you already have this in mind, you're not thinking about it, but it's easy for, when you're on social media to worry about being liked, right? Mm-hmm. And the best thing you can do is just do your best work at work, making the choices that make sense to you for your character's motivations, not taking that into consideration, being liked, right? Mm-hmm. And that's hard. that's hard. But and it sounds like you're not swept up in that, but it's hard not to. But because then the choices
And the
become
less you
boring.
listen, the less you read, the better off you're going to be, by the way.
That's right.
So just forget and listen, because I started this show 29,000 years ago, and all they had was chat rooms at the time. And then you get in a chat room and they'd be talking smack about you, and like his this and that. And I'm like, I can't do that. I'm not doing this. Isn't helping me at all. Like, you know what I mean? So but yeah, we're excited to see where your character goes.
Yeah, it's cool to have. It's we miss having a Patrick on screen. We certainly miss having Robin on screen. So it's cool to have a Scorpio another Scorpio in the mix. So, or a Drake Scorpio. Do you have a does Emma have a hyphenated name, or is it just Drake?
I've seen both. I think how they're crediting my version of Emma is just Emma Drake. That's how it's been written. But originally it's always been Emma Scorpio Drake hyphainated. So
yeah, cool, awesome.
Which either or.
Well,
Emma Drake's cool too. That's a cool
right.
last name too.
Great name.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
Well, we're so glad that we get to spend some time with you, and excited to see what happens.
Thank you so much.
All right. We're in.
Awesome.
If people want to follow along, you have socials and stuff that.
Yeah, I really just use Instagram. I'm not a huge social media person, but it's just my name. It's just at Braedyn Bruner.
Awesome. All right. Cool. All right.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you,
keep
Braedyn.
up the good work, and thank you so much.
Thank y'all.